श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। वक्रतुण्डमहाकाय सूर्यकोटिसमप्रभः निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। गुरवे सर्वलोकानां भिषजगुरोगिणां निधे सर्वविद्यानां श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। वेदव्यासं स्वात्मा रूपं सत्यसन्धं परायणं स शान्तं जितेन्द्रियं जितेन्द्रिय क्रोधं सशिष्यं परमा प्रणमाम्यहं। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवं। नारायणपरो व्यक्तादण्डमव्यक्तसम्भवं मण्डस्यान्तस्तु मे लोकः सप्तद्वीपाचमेदिनी पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणे स्वयं व्यासेन कृतितां पुराणमणिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीमष्टादशाध्यायिनीं वामनसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते विबुद्वेषिणीम् श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। अवतीर्णश्च कालट्यां केदारेन्तर्हितश्च चतुष्पीठप्रतिष्ठाता जयदाश्चङ्करो गुरुः। So we were looking at the Jnana-Karma-Sanyasa Yoga, 26th shloka. Shrotraadin indriyananye samyamagnishu juhvadi shabdadin vishayananya indriyagnishu juhvadi. So this shloka we were looking previously. The first half of the shloka we looked at, which said others. So others, here again mentioning about Krishna is, Bhagavan is describing about different types of yajnas, sacrifices that these karma sannyasis were undertaking. First one we looked at Brahmarpanam Brahmahavi, where he sees through jnana everything as Brahman. And the second one we looked at Daivameva Yajnam. So they offer to Devatas. And then we looked at the other yajnas as well, right? So we looked at the different types of yajnas there. So here in the first half of the shloka, Shrotraadin Indriyanani Samyamagnishu Juhvadi, there we were looking at where that yogi offering the organs, ear and so on in the Agni of self-control, Samyam. So in that Agni, they jihvati, those who they are offering in that. So that means they control their organs. And so through that, as with the help of Sri Madhusudan Saraswati's Bhashya, we looked at how that happens. So using Patanjali's Ashtanga Yoga, we looked at 4 parts of that Ashtanga Yoga. Right? Dharana, which is concentration, Dhyana, which is meditation, Samadhi, and then getting into that absorption state. So through that they attain that. So Dharana is fixing the mind on a thing for a long time, and then Dhyana is again a mental modification in the form of Bhagavan, which now and then gets interrupted, and then Samadhi is absolutely uninterrupted state of that Dhyana continued for a long time. And that Samadhi we looked at 2 stages, Samprajnata Samadhi, Asamprajnata Samadhi, or Sabhija or Nirbija Samadhi, and again that again based on the different levels or stages of the mind, Kshipta, which is scattered, Muda, Vikshipta, Ekagra, and Ekagra is when one reaches that Samprajnata Samadhi, and then the last one is Niruddha, which is completely restrained, and that's when Asamprajnata Nirbija Samadhi is attained. And they withdraw those sense organs from the respective objects, those yogis, and attaining that Dharana Dhyana Samadhi, with the view of attaining those Dharana Dhyana Samadhi, they withdraw this sense organ. That withdrawal itself is known as Pratyahara. So from Patanjali's Ashtanga Yoga, we looked at 4 things: Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. So these 4 things we looked at. That comes at the later stages in that yoga. The first 4 Yavanima Asana, Pranayama, we will look in the upcoming shlokas. But before that, we need to look at the second half of the shloka, where Bhagavan says Shabdadin Vishayananya Indriyagnishu Jihvati. So what here Bhagavan saying is Anye, so that is Here talking about again others, so other yogis who are not in following the previous sacrifices or yajnas that's mentioned, methods that's mentioned, the other yogis, they offer the objects like sound and so on in Indriyagni, the in the Indriyas, in the Agni of the organs itself. They offer that. So the organs themselves here becomes the Agni. And they make offerings in those Agnis with the organs of hearing and so on. So the organs of sense organs, karmendriyas, they offer that in that Agni. So they consider the perception of the objects not prohibited by scriptures to be a sacrifice. So again, seeing something, hearing, listening, eating, or whatever it is, tasting, or whatever it is that indriyas take in, indriyas give that to the mind, they consider that as not a prohibition from the Shastra. So they take that, but they do not get attachment. So that's what is being said here. The enjoyment of the objects without attachment or aversion, which occurs again in the state of Vittana. So again, previously we looked at the yogi entering that samadhi state, right? Once they enter that samadhi state, they come out of that samadhi state at some point, and that state is known as, when they come out of that samadhi, is known as Vittana. So in that Vittana state, when they come out of that, is this another sacrifice that's being mentioned here, where those who are come out of that in that Vittana state, so Anye here again, others, when Bhagavan is talking about Anye, that the others, those who have come out of that Samadhi state, that is in the state of Vittana, they offer Shabdadin Vishayan, so they offer the objects like sound and so on. So they offer that in the Agni of sense organs. Indriya Agni, so they offer in that sense organs. Without attachment, they perceive like others unprohibited objects with the organs of hearing and so on. They perceive those things. That itself is like pouring an oblation. So that's their sacrifice. So like this, having mentioned two types of sacrifices, that is the samadhi attained through the process of laya, dissolution, and the vittana from that samadhi, from the point of view of Patanjali, Bhagavan again now in the next shlokas, he speaks about other kind of sacrifice in the form of a samadhi, which according to the point of view of who hold onto the Brahman, follows the bada. So again, previously we looked at the point of view samadhi attained through the process of laya, dissolution. Okay, and from there they come out of vittana, so come out of that samadhi, vittana state, and there we looked at an sacrifice as well. Bhagavan now looks at another type of samadhi, which is attained through bada. So laya and bada, two methods, two processes of attaining samadhi. So bada is sublation, and that bada, samadhi attained through bada, is devoid of vittana. From that, one does not come out. Okay, so that is the type of samadhi. So that's being is that is again because in that bada samadhi, sublation in that type of samadhi, because there is no vittana, and because there is no avidya has been completely destroyed in that state, there is no vittana. There is no state where one comes out, emergence from that samadhi. That's not there. So that's what being Bhagavan talks about in the next shloka, which is the 27th shloka, where Bhagavan says, Sarvani Indriya Karmani Prana Karmani Chapare Atma Samyama Yogagno Juhvadi Jnana-Dipite. Sarvani Indriya Karmani Prana Karmani Chapare Atma Samyama Yogagno Juhvadi Jnana-Dipite. So other Others offer all the activities of the organs and the activities of the vital force, pranas, into the Agni of the yoga of self-control, which has been lighted by knowledge, jnana. So, sarvani means all, indriya, the senses, karmani, functions, the actions, the activities, prana karmani is the functions of the life breath, the vital force, vital air, cha means and, apare means other, atma samyama yogagno means in the agni of the controlled mind. Jihvati means sacrifice, offering. Jnanadipite means kindled by knowledge, kindled by jnana. So here, Acharya explains this like this. Bhagavan says that further to what's been said now, others offer or they merge all the activities of the organs and also the activities of the prana, which is the vital force. So here again, Acharya says that prano vayu adhyatmika. So prana means the vital air of the body. And they offer that. They offer it as activities, as a contraction, expansion, and so on. They offer that into the Agni of the yoga of self-control, which is the withdrawal, samyama, into the Atma is self-control. So the withdrawal into the Atma itself is self-control. So Atmani samyama, Atma samyama. So that's what Acharya says. So the Atmani samyama, the control, withdrawal into the Atma itself is Atma samyama. So samyama again consists of concentration, meditation, self-absorption, and so on. So the idea mentioned, conveyed in this verse is that by stopping all the activities, they, that is the other yogis, they concentrate the mind on the Atma itself. And that itself is the Agni of the yoga, Yoga Agni. They offer into that Agni, which has been lighted by knowledge, which has been lighted by jnana, viveka, vijnanena, ujjvala bhavam. So made up to blaze up by discriminating knowledge. So again, viveka is discriminating knowledge. We looked at in the first adhyaya itself. So that viveka, that discriminating knowledge that comes, and that is as if it is lighted up by oil. So that's what Acharya says. So that because of that jnana lighted in them, they offer all the karmani, indriya karmas in that Atma samyama, in the control, withdrawal into the Atma itself, they offer that. So that's what Acharya explains here. Bhagavad Shankaracharya explains, and Sri Madhusudan Saraswati explains it a little bit further, continuing what he said previously, where he talked about when one comes out of Vyuttana, so that asamprajnata samadhi, when attains, one comes out of Vyuttana, and that's what mentioned in the second half of the shloka, in the previous shloka. Now he talks about Samadhi. He talks about again those two processes. One is through laya, which is dissolution, and the other one is vada, sublation. And now he starts explaining how that the second type of process of samadhi, which is through vada, is attained. Here he says that as per the Brahma Sutra statement, where it says that there is no difference of the cause and the effect on account of about its origin and so on. So Brahma Sutra says that the distinction of the cause and effect does not exist because there is understood to be non-difference of identity, non-different identity of the cause and effect. The effect is manifold word consisting of either and manifold consisting of the space and so on. The cause is highest Brahman. Say, for example, if you give a simple example, like clay is like Brahman, it is the cause, okay, and effect is the outcome of from that clay, whether it is a pot or a spoon or a plate or whatever it is, different things that's come out, effect. Okay, so in reality, what Brahma Sutra says here is that the cause and effect are not different; they are same. Okay, there is no different, but they are looked as different. Okay, on effect, again, it is affect the that outcome, that effect is understood that the in reality it is not different from the cause. So when you look at that plate or whatever that's formed from the clay, it is same. It is the clay. Ultimately, it is the clay, and that is it has no existence apart from its cause. Just like that, what Sri Madhusun Saraswati says here is that as just like that Brahma Sutra statement, where there is it clearly says that there is no distinction between the cause and effect, the kriya and karana and the kriya, whatever that outcome that has happened, the karana is the brahmastu, kriya is the effects that have taken place. So this world or anything you can, so here again in Brahma Sutra Bhashya, Acharya gives examples of parts. He says effects, for example, the space and Agni, Vayu, all these Panchabhutas and all those kind of things. So here what Srimad Saraswati is explaining is just like that said in the Brahma Sutra Bhashya, the effect cannot exist apart from the cause. Therefore, the individual form brought about by the intermingling of these five gross elements, five panchabhuta, elements, five panchabhutas, okay, Prithvi, Tejo, Vayu, Agni. So the and all these and Akasha. So these things, intermingling of those things, have formed this individual form, right? Anything we look at. And that itself is same as is the effect of that cosmic form, samasti rupa. So individual form is known as vesti, and together, everything together, that cosmic form is known as samasti rupa. And that individual form does not exist apart from the samasti rupa. Similarly, that samasti rupa, which is brought by the panchikarana, intermingling of these gross elements. So panchikarana is again another term. So where panchikarana is effectively we have the five gross elements, right? So let's take Akasha, Vayu, Agni, water, and then Prithvi, right? So Akasha, all these five elements, they've been split, let's say, into 16 parts. Okay? So I'm just explaining the Panchikarana process. So 16 parts. They maintained half of it is maintained. So Akasha is, let's say, maintains half of it. That is the 4 parts of that. Other 4 parts of the quarters or 1/8 of that Akasha Tattva is been added by one of the other 4. Say, for example, Vayu is added 1/8, and then Agni is added 1/8, water 1/8, Earth is another way. So Akasha, when we say Panchikarana happens there, Akasha with Panchikarana, we are looking at Akasha as half of it and then 1/8 of the other 4. Just like similar to that, the Vayu, Agni, all these things happen. So the Panchikarana, when the individual form takes place, Sri Madhusun Saraswati says Panchikrita Panchabhutatmakam. So this individual or intermingled 5 gross elements, which is the effect of thus that unintermingled 5 great subtle elements, those elements. So individually there's a pure Vayu or Akasha or whatever it is, and then there's a Panchikarana. This Panchikarana, after the Panchikarana, these forms have taken place. So these forms, whatever that we see, individual form, Vesti Rupa, we see that is not different. That is an effect of that unintermingled 5 great elements, the original elements. Similarly, the element or among the Panchabhutas, earth, which has 5 qualities in it: sound, touch, form, taste, and smell. So it has these 5 elements. That is an effect of the water. So earth is formed from water, right? So water has got 4 qualities in it, except the smell. It has all the other 4 qualities. So that is that it has sound, touch, form, and taste. It has those things. So again, these 5 things relate to 5 sense organs: sound to ear, touch to skin, form or color to eyes, and then touch, taste is to tongue, and then odor to nose. So these qualities of earth, which is sound, touch, form, taste, and odor, that earth is an effect of water. And water in itself is an effect of Agni. And Agni has got all the qualities of water, except it does not have taste. Okay, so compared to earth, it does not have smell and taste, but compared to water, it does not have taste only. Okay, it does not have taste. It has sound, touch, and color. So it has those things. And then Agni itself is an effect of Vayu. So Vayu, and Vayu has got, again, it does not have the shape as well. So the form or the color does not apply to Vayu. So Vayu has sound and touch as the 2 qualities. And then Vayu is an effect of space. So the space has the qualities of sound only in it. So, and then space is an effect of ahankara, and let me become many. So when Bhagavan thinks, so kamayata, so this Brihadaranyaka says, just like it says, so that let me become many. So like that ahankara, from that space has originated. And ahankara, which is form of a sankalpa, a resolve, being an effect of principle mahat, it is an effect of mahat. And mahat, which is in the form of Bhagavan's Brahman's thinking about Maya, and that itself does not exist apart from mahat itself. So that mahat also, which is the nature of the thought and is being a transformation of the Maya, does not exist apart from the Maya itself. So what Sri Madhusudan Saraswati says is, Tadapi Mayakyam Karanam Jadatvena Chaitanyetidhya Tattva Vyatikaranena Nastityanasandanena Vidyamartena Karyakaranatmage Prapanche Chaitanya Matra Gocharo Ya Samadhi Sa Laya Purvaka Uchyate. So he says that, again, the Maya, what we said here, that's the cause, is the cause that is called Maya, which is on account of being Jada, insentient, is superimposed on that Chaitanya, consciousness. And it does not exist apart from the consciousness, Chaitanya. So as we looked at Brahma Sutra, again going back to the Brahma Sutra, so if you look at where we started with Prithvi. Prithvi to water, water to Agni, Agni to Vayu, Vayu to Akasha, Akasha to Ahankara, Ahankara to Mahat. Like that we went, and finally we ended up with Maya. And we said Maya, because it is Jada, it is superimposed on the Chaitanya. It does not exist apart from it. So Karya Karana, there is no difference between them. That type of Samadhi, which through such a deliberation has Chaitanya alone for its object, even though the cosmos existing, the cause and effect continues, okay, even the everything continues, but that Samadhi which has through this kind of deliberation has that Chaitanya alone is called Samadhi through Laya or dissolution. So that means you dissolve everything in one higher up, and finally end up that there is only one Karanavastu, that is Brahman. And that Samadhi is through Laya or dissolution. Because in that state, ignorance, avidya, and its effects do not become dissipated. And because there is an absence of the knowledge arising from the meaning of, for example, the Upanishad sayings, Tattvamasi, and so on. So there is an absence of that knowledge, and ignorance and its effects do not become dissipated. Even though such deliberation still, since exists, persists, and the cause of the entire, it appears again. Therefore, that samadhi, which is with the latency, with sabija, as the cause of, like, for example, just like in the deep sleep, in deep sleep that we get, is not the mukhya one. It is not the principal one. So this samadhi through laya is not the main important samadhi. So that's what Srimad Saraswati says. That's similar to asamprajnat samadhi. But he says that mukhyastu तत्त्वमस्यादि महावाक्यार्थ साक्षात् कारेण विद्यायां कारेण अविद्यायां निवृत्तो स्वर्गक्रमेण तत्कार्य निवृत्तेरानन्याद विद्यादयश्च पुनरुत्थानभावेन तत्कार्यस्यापि पुनरुत्थानभावान् निर्बीजो भावपूर्वक समाधि. So he says that the principal samadhi, the mukhya samadhi, the important type of samadhi, however, is the one which is achieved through sublation, which is through bada, which is nirbija, seedless. And that nirbija samadhi, because when that avidya is eliminated as a result of realization of the idea conveyed through Upanishad statements like Tattvamasi and so on, the effects of that ignorance, avidya, also get eliminated in accordance with the order of creation. So, because in creation, the effect comes out of its cause, hence the cause, ignorance, when that cause is when the cause, which is the ignorance, is eliminated, the effect also gets eliminated. So that's why, because as a result of that absence of re-emergence from that beginless ignorance, there is an absence of re-emergence of its effects also. So that's why that Vyuttana state will not happen. And that Nirbija Samadhi is what said in this verse. That's what Srimad Saraswati says. So to give that background, what is stated in this, he explains all this. So effectively, the previous verses were talking about that samadhi through laya, dissolution process. Now he talks about where jnana is attained through the Upanishad statements like Tattvamasi, understanding that where avidya has completely disappeared. There is no effect or cause, those separations. You are just thinking about that Brahman. That state is Nirbija Samadhi. When attains that, when that avidya has disappeared, destroyed, that's when one gets this kind of samadhi. So he says that that's why the others, apare here, offer they merge all sarvani. Again, all means here both their gross form and their form of as tendencies. They offer all that, all the activities of the organs. Indriya Karmani, here says, Masun Saraswati says that Indriya Karmani, he says that activities of the organs, the activities which is the Karmani. Example here he says that Shabda Shravana, Sparsha Grahana, Rupa Darshana, Rasa Grahana, Gandha Grahanani, Vachana Dana, Viharanotsargana, Anandakani. So he says that hearing sound, Shabda Shravana, which is through ears, feeling touch, Sparsha Grahana, through skin, and then seeing colors, Rupa Darshana, colors or forms or whatever, Rupa, and then shapes and things like that, and then experience of taste, Rasa Grahana, through tongue, and then perception of smell, Gandha Grahana, through nose, and then speaking, Vachana, through mouth, grasping, Adana, Pradana, through arms, and then walking, Viharana, through legs, and then excreting utsargana through maladwara, anus, and then enjoying ananda through jananindriya, genital organs. So, as also the thinking, which happens through manas, mind, and deciding, which happens through buddhi, intellect. So, all of these organs, the indriyani, the word indriyani covers all these things. Of the external organs, the 5 sense organs, jnanendriyas, called shrotra, tvak, chakshu, rasana, grana, akhyana. So these ones, ears, skin, eye, tongue, nose, and 5 organs of actions, karmendriyas, called vak, pani, pada, payu, upastakhyana. So these payu, so these vak, pani, pada, payu, so these again, speech, hand, feet, anus, and the generative organs. So these also, and also the 2 internal ones, mano, buddhi, so mind and intellect. These all together are here mentioned as, when it says indriya, sarvani indriya, so all the indriyas. And indriyas, when indriyas is mentioned, all these are included. Similarly, prana karmani, the activities of the prana, the activities, again, karmani here, karma examples of the prana are bahirnayana, madonayana, makunchana, prasaranadi, ashita, pita, samanayana, murdhvanayana, murdhanayanam, ityadini. So he says that the leading out, the air going out, which is prana, leading downwards, the air that's going downwards in the body, which is apana, so that goes through maladwara, and then contracting and spreading, which is makunchana, prasaranad, so which is vyana, and then digestion of what's eaten and drunk, whatever eaten and drunk, so the digestion of that, and then spreading that all over the body, that's samana, and then leading upwards, udana. So like, for example, burp, or when we speak, the air coming out, all this is udana. So all these 5 pranas, prana, apana, vyano, dana, samana. So these 5 prana, apana, vyana, samana, udana, these are prana karmas. So the karmas are again, so leading out, leading downwards, contraction, spreading, digestion, and then distribution of that, and leading upwards. So these karmas, anena pancha jnanendriyani, pancha karmendriyani, pancha prana, manobuddhischeti, saptadashatmakam lingamuktam. So he says that by this presented the linga sharira, the subtle body that's been made up of the 17 constituents, which include the 5 sense organs, 5 karmendriyas, motor organs, actions, organs of actions, and then 5 prana, vital forces, and then manasu, buddhi, mind and intellect. So these 17. The adjective here, sarvani, all, is used with the indication here of intention of indicating that by this sukshma bhuta, this subtle body, here meant that the aggregate of the samashti rupa and of all these subtle elements. So that's what is mentioned, that samashti rupa is called Hiranyagarbha. So it's mentioned in that. And those yogis, they offer Atma Samyama Yogagno, into the fire of yoga in the form of Samyama of Atma itself. So Atma Samyama means Samyama in the form of Dharana, Dhyana, Samprajnata, Samadhi on the Atma. When that matures, then comes the yoga, the Nirodha Samadhi, the Samadhi through full restraint, which again Patanjali says that Vittana Nirodha Samskara Yorabhayo Bhiva Pradurbhava Nirodha Kshana Chittanvayo Nirodha Parinamaha. By the suppression of Vittana impressions of the mind, and by the rise of impression of control, that is the Nirodha, mind which persists in that moment of control, Nirodha is said to attain the controlling of these modifications, these Vittanas. So that's what Patanjali says. So again, Vittana here signifies 3 states called Chipta, Muda, and Vikshipta. It signifies that the impression of these Kshipta, Muda, Vikshipta, they are opposite to the Samadhi, and they become suppressed by daily and constant effort of the yogi. This Kshipta, this scattered, stupefied, and restless mind is constantly suppressed and always suppressed by that yogi, and there emerges the impression again, the samskaras that develop uh, of control. The controlling samskara develops, and that is called nirodha. That is opposite to that Kshipta, Muda, and Vikshipta and things like that, that will stop. And as a result of persistence of the mind in that moment, in that Nirodha alone, that Nirodha type of modification, the controlling of that changes in the mind happens. And again, Patanjali says that Tasya Prashanta Vahita Samskara. So from that comes the steady flow on account of samskaras of Nirodha. So he says that once that continuously, one daily always controls that, through effort, one controls that, those Kshipta, Muda, Vikshipta states, this Nirodha comes. And that steady mind is what takes in the form of pure Sattva, Shuddha Tattva state on becoming free from mental activities. Mental inactivity, laya, vikshepa, which is restlessness, as a result of elimination of rajas and tamogunas. So the steady flow again, which Patanjali says, is again predominance of those samskaras of steadiness due to perfection in acquiring those successive samskaras. So once again, continuous effort takes this, and Patanjali again adds that Virama Pratyayabhyasa Purvaha Samskara Shesho Anyaha. So he says that the other or Anya, which is the kind of Samadhi, Asamprajnan Samadhi, is that which is only samskaras remain and which is preceded by the practice of the means of Pratyaya, which is by the condition, Abhyasa practice of that Pratyaya of cessation of all mental modifications. So the yoga, which is the kind in the form of samyama of Atma, is itself Agni. And in that, which is lighted by the jnana, knowledge, is the realization of identity with the Brahman. And the Atma, that identity of Brahman and Atma, that identity, realization is itself is that jnana. And that again comes from this Upanishad sayings, Vedantic sayings, like Tatvamasi and so on, that through that destruction of the ignorance, avidya and its effects, the samadhi achieved through the bada, these yogis they offer, and they get into that kind of state. So that's what this shloka says here. Through bada they attain, so that samadhi they attain. And like this shloka is explained by Sri Madhusudana Saraswati and also Sri Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya explains this. So through these shlokas, from 24th shloka, Bhagavan explains 5 types of different types of sacrifices. Brahmarpam, Brahmaharvi, there he sees that Brahma Drishti as through jnana, everything is sacrifice. And then Daivameva Pare Yajnam, he explains that Daiva Yajna, offering everything to Deva, and then also to Brahma. And that means where Jivatma is offered in the Paramatma. And then in 26 and 27, we see that Shrotra, Shabda, and all these kind of things offered into the Indriyas, and then Indriyas offered into the objects itself. So those kind of sacrifices we have seen here. So next, in the next shloka, Bhagavan explains 6 different types of sacrifices. So there he says, in the 28th shloka, he says, Dravya yajna, stapo yajna, yoga yajna, statapare, swadhyaya jnana yajnascha, yataiha samchirita sanshita vrataha. Dravya yajna, stapo yajna, yoga yajñāstadā pare swadhyaya jnana yajñāscha yatayah samchetavrataha. So we'll look at this shloka next time. This going to take quite a bit of time. We'll look at that next time.